Hey everyone, really excited to be here at the Pieces AI Productivity Summit, a place that I know is about learning about how to get more done with less friction, using AI to get more productive. And I wanted to start by introducing myself here. So I'm Spencer Gallardo. I'm actually a solutions engineer working at Salesforce. And I've been there for now about 6 years. And before I was at Salesforce, I was actually working in the ad tech space, so advertising, doing integrations when it comes to doing custom solutions that we would build. And ultimately, far and away from anything AI, but as you've noticed, AI has taken the world by storm, and now it's part of my everyday life. And before we get into the real technical aspects of it, um, I wanted to talk a little bit about how it changed throughout the time that I've been working, right? Because AI has come and taken us through a whirlwind, and especially RAG specifically. But a while ago, I was juggling three customers' calls. I was trying to prep for demos, which took forever because it meant that I needed to build both a deck, go through my notes and my research, and then I needed to build a custom environment and then had to search internal obscure documentation that I knew existed somewhere, but in my brain, it felt like, having 43 tabs open, which literally I probably did have in my actual browser. And that causes a level of burnout that is just capable of just stopping me from being productive, right? Because that's ultimately what I want to do, is be able to deliver these demos, build these things quickly, but doing it in a way that's high quality. And the context switching, the constant searching crushed my productivity. So with that pain point, eventually, we know GPT came out. We know AI has been out. Generative AI specifically has been out, and it's sparked an obsession at some point because of that pain, how to work a lot smarter, leveraging AI. So initially with GPT, it's great because you can start to ask it questions, right? We're asking it questions like, how can I, what is like a general search question for maybe some sort of coding or development issue. It's doing great stuff with coding, right? But in my job specifically, I work with a lot of context that is centered around Salesforce, specifically centered around my actual customers that I work with. So all of that requires really, really specific information. And that's where retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, has come in to make my journey with being productive with AI so much better. So I went from being overwhelmed to creating, taking the chaos of having to search for all this information, to get a much more clear way and path to finding the information that I need. And the reason why this also happens to be a pain point at where I'm working in Salesforce is that we've got new products that are coming out. Products is releasing new features. We're working with enterprise customers that are so complex, and finding the nuances to these particular products, it saves the day when you have it grounded in the actual information. So let's talk a little bit about how we actually get there, or got there, with RAG, or what RAG looks like today for me working at Salesforce, and how it's helped me really drive productivity on my day-to-day basis. So for those who are newer to RAG by chance, just to give you kind of a high level of what it even means, right? What is RAG? It stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And ultimately, it's a fancy way of combining the AI models, like the ones, Anthropic, OpenAI, what other one? Google as well, and combining it with actual information that you have at your company. Perhaps it's personal information if it's a personal project. And it really breaks down into two pieces. It's retrieving that information. So that information could be what we call structured data, like in tables, or it can be unstructured data, like PDFs or Confluence articles internally, or perhaps even just a website, right? A website that it can crawl. It retrieves that information, and then what it does is it feeds it into the actual model, and then you actually get a response that's grounded in that information that the larger, broader model doesn't have. So instead of getting a generic GPT style response, for example, if I asked it, hey, can you, at Salesforce, we have a product called Agentforce, can you tell me how to go ahead and switch on Agentforce for a customer that is in the health life science industry? GPT might give me a very high level response, but with RAG, it actually has access to internal information that gives me a hyper relevant, specific answer based on the content that we have internally. And that's the real key difference that I would say that RAG brings when it comes to generative AI, when you're finding or looking for information, because between like Googling something, right? Googling or asking a smarter coworker, Greg has the information. It's like having a best friend that can go ahead and look at a shelf and it knows exactly where to pick out that response because you gave it access to it. So that being said, that's the foundation of RAG. Um, Let me take you a little bit of before time. So again, I gave you a quick example of I used to ask questions, or I used to get questions really from other customers and coworkers, and how does Agentforce at Salesforce compare to maybe a competitor, or do you have any customer examples where real time data is being used in personalization, and how can I go about activating that if we only have set feature? Right? Very specific questions that I'd go down a rabbit hole of searching Google Docs, checking with teammates. I would go into Slack because we leverage Slack at Salesforce and try to remember what exactly was it, or it might even be even worse than that. I may have already answered this question in the past, and it should be such an easy thing to get, but it's been a year since I've had this question asked. And maybe this is something very familiar to you, right? There's no index, there's no way to bring those surfaces and surface those insights immediately because you've got a bunch of tabs open, somebody else is pinging you at the same time. Now, with RAG, that's all been turned around because now I can just ask the AI that we have internally. In this case, it's Agentforce, but I use other AI platforms and tools, which I'll talk about in a moment, to go ahead and help that. It makes it much faster and allowed me to adopt to the shift of, hey, I can find answers immediately and be productive. And like I would say before, I know I could spend like an hour going down a rabbit hole, also because it's partly my personality of I need to figure this out. I can't move on to the next thing. And with RAG combined with AI um, and agents, it for me, I can find an answer not only can I find the answer with RAG, but RAG also helps me formulate a response, especially if it's being asked by an external client or a customer. And that to me is it's saving time and saving money and saving just the actual effort and headache that I used to get in the past. So, what does RAG look like for me today? Right. So, I keep talking about what it does. But so for me at work specifically, I use Salesforce internally. We have something called Agentforce that leverages RAG, and we connect all this different data from Confluence pages, Slack posts, Google Slides, summarized notes, and we bring it into an AI interface that can help us find answers, retrieve knowledge articles, and then for collaboration or for specific, very specific customer use cases, for an example would be I'm collaborating with the product team as a solution engineer on a POC, proof of concept, where we need a lot of the customers' information that we can't really share anywhere else. And it's not, something Salesforce should be keeping, but something that the customer trusts with us individually as a team. I'll leverage Google Notebook, which is a RAG UI interface, which I would recommend for everybody to like use. If you don't have to even have, do any type of intense coding to leverage RAG. We have interfaces like Google Notebook and that leverage RAG in a great way and gives you all the information you need. And I'll show you in a moment what that looks like. And then personally, I have a personal project that I'm just working on here around losing weight, about eating better, and I have a YouTube channel as well. So I'm trying to build my own assistant leveraging Python, ChatGPT, and LangChain. So I'm connecting it to a Google Cloud that has all my own content, my research notes, my own tables of what I ate last, and that can only work by leveraging RAG, right? Because I'm giving it all the personalized information about myself in order to bring that to have responses from this personal assistant agent to be catered to what I need. Hey, make me a meal plan for the week. How does it know? Based on what I ate last week, it gives me something fresh. Those are the type of things that I think I like to establish with RAG from a personal standpoint that could help really make me more productive, more healthy, right? So I can live longer. So as you can see, the positive impacts of RAG go beyond just a professional environment. It also helps a lot to be able to your own personal life, right? Be able to have that key context that it's so unique to yourself. So just wanted to take a moment here and just talk a little bit about what those first two examples that I talked about. So RAG within the Salesforce environment, and I just want to show you an example as well as the Google Notebook example, just to show you what those two would look like. And awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at how this comes together. So that very first example was talking a bit that I mentioned before was leveraging Agentforce within the Salesforce platform and how it helps us be more productive. So ultimately, what we did at Salesforce as an organization, both as an organization and a team level, we built a data foundation. So the platform allows us to bring in both structured and unstructured data. Again, structured data could be tables, sheets, and then unstructured data, which I actually think is the bulk of the example that we leverage, is bringing in PDFs, getting external help documentation plugged in, getting Slack posts for a particular team and product channels plugged in, Google Slides. We're working on presentations all the time. Why, let's not rebuild it from scratch. Let's go ahead and get all that rich information for us to leverage within RAG. Summarize notes from past internal meetings, and then High Spot is where we have all of our knowledge and marketing materials. And so what we do is we bring that into the platform. The agents and the AI within the platform called Agentforce go ahead and look for all that information across the board. It uses reasoning to understand what's the right source that I should look like. And then it gives us a natural grounded response in that information. So that a bird's eye view, this is how it's looking internally. And when we look at it from like a horizontal flow view, right? I've got my query. Typical thing that I'm looking for are we've got such complex products and they go across different parts of the business: marketing, sales, service, commerce, IT. We leverage, we leverage this capability to go ahead and ask questions that go across all of those. So it might be, how does marketing work? How does Marketing Cloud, which is a Salesforce product, work with the Service Cloud when a customer has opted out of marketing communication, but still wants communication from a service case? And so before those, there are nuances to that response, right? It could be a simple, yes, it'll work, but we want to provide a very, very thorough response that's grounded in reality. And now that used to take an hour to get that answer because I might have to go to different teams or different articles. With this, Agentforce combines that, the AI, and then leverages, most importantly, RAG capabilities to get that response and give me a natural answer. And as part of that flow, right? It's actually getting my question. It's gonna look at the intent, right? The Gen AI aspect there is really looking to see, what is the intent of this response? It sends it to the data cloud where we've brought in all that information where the RAG is occurring. We're taking that unstructured data, which has been what we call chunked, and vectorized. So it's been basically, we're turning a PDF into ones and zeros so that the computer or the AI can actually find it much faster, get that RAG response, and then the actual AI itself is looking to see if it's a quality response based on my original question. And so here's an example if we visually put it together. I'm asking a question about Okta. I'm locked out of an account, so let's not even talk about a product example here. We're talking about an example where it's just like an IT example. I could spend a long time opening up a ticket. I could spend a long time, waiting for IT to get back to me. I could search Basecamp. I could search our Slacks on how to, unlock my Okta account. But in this case, agents go ahead, select a topic based on my natural question. They gather the RAG knowledge, and then they execute on it to give me a natural response. And so I can click here automatically. It goes to our knowledge base. It actually kicks off a flow and it actually gives me a link. So we're combining RAG with an actionable step here that allows me to go ahead and in a couple of seconds unlock my account. But you can imagine this could be used for many workflows. So RAG can work alone for knowledge. It's great for that productive, but it can also be used for kicking off workflows like this example, which can create a whole orchestration of automation to be way more productive and bring those results that you're looking for. So another, just to bring it to life and just show you within the software, we have our data streams that bring in that data. So in my case, I've configured an Amazon S3 Okta knowledge article that I actually have got right here, and I'll show you that. Just an example, just to show you this example here. And what we do is we actually create a search index from that ingestion of data. That becomes file DMO here that I named. And then I create a prompt within the platform that says, anytime somebody asks a question about Okta knowledge, use this prompt here, look at the question, and be smart and leverage the actual vectorized information and unstructured data to search for that response. And so what we do is that when we apply it to an actual agent, and here what you're looking at now, it's just the internal Agentforce tester. We have this actually deployed on Slack, and we have this deployed on through API on a web page. But I wanted to show you here as an example. Can you help me reset my password? So with RAG, what it's doing now, it's using the reasoning that we saw before. It's looking to see, okay, he's asking a question about how do I unlock the Okta password. Oh, awesome. Here we go. And it gave me that response here, leveraging that file that's been uploaded. And now if we look at, in contrast, I've got another agent here that doesn't have RAG. It's just got internal skills here. And I say, can you help me reset my Okta password? It doesn't have that context. So it might actually give me a response that's kind of generic. See, sure, I can help you with that. Maybe search the internet, but it's not giving me that specific response that I got previously. That gives me the step-by-step, the exact link to click. I wanted to move on really quickly also to the other example that I was talking about when it comes to a simple RAG UI, such as Google Notebook LM. Great example where you can go ahead and you don't have to do any type of deep coding, or if you want to leverage this for something personal or collaboration, notebooks essentially allow you to go ahead and add sources. So I can add a Google Docs. This is connected to my Drive. I can add website, YouTube pages, links, or I can just upload a file here, an audio, or anything else that I may have that might be related to a project that I'm working on, to a customer, and I can actually share this with people. And so as a simple example, I've added links here from Pieces as an example here, where I might say, okay, let's say I'm a first-time Pieces user. Now I can say, how do I install Pieces for developers on my PC? And now it's going to leverage those data sources that I have here and actually give me a response and maybe give me the instructions, recommend installation. And so you can imagine, I've got only two little examples here. I've got the Pieces homepage and the documentation, but you could do this, you could add many more sources that then help you get summarized. And as a little fun bonus, you actually get, if you generate this here, you can actually get a podcast that speaks to the topic that you've uploaded based on the sources that you've plugged in here. So just a great way to get started with RAG, even if we're not talking at an enterprise level or a company level. You could just use Notebook LM to get started personally. And of course, once you're ready, you can start leveraging in your applications and coded projects that you're working on today. I've used RAG powered agents to support, this is me internally. It's made me 100% more productive in finding information, like I said, but I've also helped customers do the same at Salesforce, right? They're leveraging the same capabilities of RAG. For an example I can talk to is IT, a lot of IT use cases, being able to file tickets or solve problems that are level 1, because they have such a rich knowledge base that they're able to go ahead and take that information and leverage RAG with their agents for their internal employees. Another one was being able to do that for customers as well. So another sports team that I worked with created this vision where, hey, what if customers just want to ask questions on the website? And we have all this rich information besides what they see on the website today. RAG helps that AI who's actually interfacing with a customer go into the back end of that sport team's deep knowledge, answer questions about tickets, seating, food, recommendations, and RAG really creates that powerful speed and trust with that customer. So again, we're talking about productivity all across the board. And so this is, to me, it's this is the outcome you're having here is leveraging RAG is something that goes from answering questions that typically would take maybe half an hour to about a couple of minutes. And for me, my personal outcomes was doing demo prep went from 2 hours typically to 15 minutes. I prepped a demo, whether that be a personalized talk track, whether that was developing logos, whether that was, hey, help me configure a custom component. RAG had all the internal information that helped me get that. RAG helped me retrieve all the internal information to get that outcome. Internal questions, answer it instantly. That's a no-brainer, and that's a great use case for anybody to be able to go ahead and get started with today, which is low risk. Personal notes, which I'm working on now, summarized with one prompt. That to me, again, really amazing, especially working on content that lives on YouTube or even on personal projects that I'm working with other friends or buddies or people that I collaborate with. It's just making it less stressful, giving me more time to think strategically and not just assemble the materials, which gets me, context switching and getting really lost. So my recommendation, and I'd leave you with this, is how can you get started? I'd say focus on one use case. Probably the most easiest one is internal FAQs or syncing notes across teams. Identify where your knowledge lives, know where it lives. Is it Google Docs? Is it Notion? Is it SharePoint? Maybe it's just Slack, or maybe it's just your own Google Cloud. And then use a RAG framework to retrieve the information with generative AI, whether that be leveraging something as simple as a user interface like I showed you with Google Notebook LM, or perhaps it's leveraging something more complex, a little bit more complex like Agentforce, or your own personal developed agents that you can leverage here. But start small, get one win for yourself, and then start exploring more. And as you know, this is only going to get better and stronger as time goes by. And so I just want to leave you with that and say that thank you very much for spending some time with me today. Thank you very much for Pieces, for allowing me to speak to you guys. And if you're building something cool with RAG or you want to talk about anything AI, tech, Salesforce, let's please connect. Spencer Gallardo at Salesforce. Would love to swap notes, collaborate, and let's get better at using AI.